My name is Serena Hill. Family. For most, it's a word that evokes comfort, security, belonging. For me, it was a constant reminder of what I never had. My mom died when I was young, leaving a void in our home that no one could fill. My dad, heartbroken and lost in his grief, remarried quickly. And there I was, the forgotten daughter, the one who didn't fit into the picture-perfect family that had suddenly sprung up around me. His new wife's kids. Oh, they were the golden children. They smiled, they laughed, they received all his attention, while I sat on the sidelines, watching the life I once knew slip away. I wasn't bad, not in the way you'd think. I wasn't a troublemaker or a rebel. I just wasn't enough. I spent years trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Why didn't he see me? Why couldn't I just be like them? But I stayed quiet. Because I wanted to make him proud. I wanted him to look at me like he looked at them. I wanted to matter. Just once. I wanted to hear him say, "I'm proud of you." But those words never came. I didn't matter. And somehow I convinced myself that if I just worked harder, if I just did better, maybe, just maybe, he'd notice. But no matter how hard I tried, I remained the shadow, the girl who wasn't good enough. It wasn't until the family reunion that the weight of it all finally broke me. I had been silently working on something, just for myself. Something I didn't need his approval for. A tech pitch, my passion project, my passion. I'd spent countless nights, hidden behind my computer screen, crafting this idea that felt like the only thing I had left that was truly mine. It was my dream, not his. It didn't need to fit into the mold of what he thought I should be. And yet, as I watched my father raise a glass, his voice echoed through the room, each word a cold reminder of how little I mattered. One by one, let's give a toast to the kids, shall we? His voice boomed across the room as he praised the achievements of his wife's children. Each one was met with applause, smiles, their faces glowing with pride. I smiled too, because I didn't know what else to do. But when he reached me, it all stopped. The tone shifted. His eyes met mine, and he smirked. "And then there's the loser," he laughed, still trying to figure her life out. Laughter rippled through the room. Everyone joined in. But I didn't laugh. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand to be seen, to be heard. But instead, I stood. Quietly, almost mechanically, I got up and left. I didn't care about the stairs. I couldn't stay there any longer. In that room full of people who would never see me for who I really was. That was the moment I knew things had to change. That was the moment I stopped caring what he thought. I don't know what hurt more. The words my father had spoken, or the silence that followed them. Walking out of that reunion, I could feel the weight of his ridicule sinking deep into my chest. I wasn't a loser. But that's how he saw me. That's how they all saw me. And in that moment, I almost believed it too. For a brief second, I wondered why I even bothered. I thought about giving up on the pitch, on everything. What was the point? It felt like all my efforts were invisible, like I was just wasting my time chasing something that would never matter. Maybe it would be easier to just let it go, fade into the background like I always had. Maybe I could accept the role of the outcast. At least then, I wouldn't have to face the truth. That no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I would always be the invisible one. But then there was this tiny flicker of defiance, a voice inside me that whispered, "No, I wasn't his failure. I wasn't anyone's failure. I had worked too hard for too long to just let it all slip away." So I stayed quiet. I didn't throw in the towel. I pulled the blanket of shame over me, buried the pain, and kept working in the dark, telling myself that someday, I'd make it. I'd prove him wrong. But that didn't mean I believed it. Not yet. I never expected an email to change everything. One night, after another long day of refining my pitch, I received an unexpected message. It wasn't from a friend or a colleague. It was from a mentor. Someone who had seen a glimpse of my work in a startup incubator event. "You've got something here," the email said. "Don't let it die in your inbox." It was signed by Adrian Lee, an established entrepreneur who had built and sold several successful companies. The message was simple, but it felt like a lifeline thrown my way. I didn't hesitate. I emailed him back the next morning, pouring out my ideas, my hopes, my doubts. To my surprise, he responded almost immediately. "I can help you, Serena. You don't have to do this alone." We met soon after, in a small, quiet cafe. Adrian had the air of someone who'd seen both the highs and lows of the business world. But what struck me most was the way he listened. He didn't judge, didn't second guess. He didn't care about my family background or how many times I'd been overlooked. He cared about my vision. He told me something that stuck with me. Success doesn't need approval from anyone but yourself. And if you want to win, you have to own your story. Adrian didn't give me the answers, but he gave me something even more valuable: belief. For the first time in years, I felt like someone saw me. Really saw me. And that made all the difference. There was no turning back after that meeting with Adrian. I had already poured so much of myself into this project, this pitch, that it felt like my last chance. I wasn't just chasing a dream anymore. I was running from the shadows of my past, the years of being invisible, ignored, and dismissed. And yet, as I hit submit on that application, my hands shook. Was I really doing this? Could I actually pull it off? When the email came back a week later, my heart nearly stopped. "We're pleased to inform you." The words jumped off the screen. I blinked, rereading them over and over again. My pitch had been accepted. Not just accepted, funded. The moment I realized my life was about to change, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something huge. I was crossing into a world I hadn't dared to imagine for myself. That night, I called my dad's office, just to hear his voice. I didn't know why. I guess a part of me wanted to prove something, to show him that I wasn't a failure, that I wasn't just a shadow. He picked up. His voice, cold as always, echoed through the receiver. "I'm busy. Call me later." I hung up, not feeling the weight of the rejection. For the first time, I wasn't seeking his approval. I wasn't even seeking anyone's approval. I had crossed the threshold. I was on my way to something bigger than I'd ever imagined. The startup world wasn't kind to beginners, especially when you didn't have family connections or a shiny resume. I quickly learned that every success came with a new hurdle. Every deal had its price. But there was no turning back. I dove headfirst into the chaos, surrounded by a team of brilliant, driven individuals who didn't ask questions about my past. They just believed in the work. There were moments when I felt like I was drowning in decisions, in numbers, in pressures I never imagined. But Adrian was always there, guiding me with wisdom I couldn't have found on my own. He taught me how to speak up in rooms full of people who expected me to be quiet, how to stand my ground when someone tried to take advantage of me. And then there were the enemies. People who thought I'd be a flash in the pan, just another ambitious woman who wouldn't make it. Some were competitors, others investors with their own agenda. But the hardest ones were the people who tried to tear me down, because they thought I didn't deserve my place at the table. I had no family connections, no name behind me, just raw determination. One day, a potential partner reached out. They were a big player in the industry, one of my father's competitors. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. I had no idea how much this opportunity would change the course of everything. The deal with my father's top competitor was too good to pass up. It wasn't just a business opportunity, it was a statement, a way to show the world, and especially my father, that I wasn't just his loser daughter anymore. I wasn't hidden in the corners of his life, waiting for him to throw me a bone. I was carving my own path, and this deal was the crowning achievement of everything I'd worked for. But as I sat at the negotiating table, something shifted. The reality of what I was about to do, what it would mean for my father, for his company, and for me, began to settle in. This wasn't just business, it was personal. In every meeting, I could almost feel his presence lingering in the background, like a shadow just waiting to pounce. I had the power to take him down, to finally be the one with the upper hand. But at what cost? The deal wasn't just a blow to his company. It would destroy everything he had worked for. I didn't know if I was ready for that. I asked myself, over and over, was this revenge or progress? Was I really just seeking to hurt him for all the years of neglect? Or was this the moment when I could finally prove that I was worthy of more than his disregard? I knew one thing for sure. I was about to make a choice that would change everything. There was no turning back now. The deal was done. My company had secured the partnership, and in doing so, we had taken a massive bite out of my father's empire. I had canceled one of his biggest contracts, a blow he'd never see coming. The reality of what I had done settled in slowly, like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I sat in my office staring at the screen as the notifications of the canceled deal flooded in. Adrian called me, his voice a mixture of pride and caution. "You did it, Serena. But remember, this isn't just business anymore. There's fallout. People are going to notice." I didn't care. At least I didn't think I did. But when the phone rang, my heart stopped. It was my father. The sound of his voice cracked through me in a way I didn't expect. "Serena," he said, his voice small, weaker than I'd ever heard it. "We need to talk." For a moment, I couldn't move. It was as if everything I had done, the years of silence, the quiet rage, the late nights and sleepless hours building this empire, had led to this. He wasn't angry. He was scared. And in that moment, I realized something. I had become the one person who could tear him down. I had become the person he never thought I'd be. Powerful, unrelenting, and beyond his control. Aftermath of that phone call felt surreal. My father, the man who had spent my entire life dismissing me, now knew what it felt like to be on the other side of power. For years, I had been the one who was overlooked, the one who was made to feel small. But now, I was the one who held all the cards. In the days that followed, the news of my company's success spread like wildfire. Deals flooded in. Investors knocked at my door. Competitors whispered my name with a mix of awe and fear. The startup I had built from nothing was quickly becoming a force to be reckoned with, and I was the one steering the ship. I had done it. I had built something real, something that was mine. The tech world had recognized me, not as my father's daughter, but as Serena Hill, the woman who was changing the game. I didn't need his approval. I didn't need anyone's approval. But there was a strange emptiness in the triumph. As much as I had fought for this moment, I realized that the victory felt hollow, without the one person who should have been there to see it. My father. I had finally proven I wasn't a loser, but in doing so, I had lost him forever. And still, I couldn't bring myself to care. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about me. I had fought through every ounce of pain, every quiet rejection to stand here today. I wasn't just a survivor. I was a force. The phone call came at a moment I least expected it. The man who had raised me with indifference, who had dismissed me like I was nothing, now wanted something from me. His voice was weak, shaky, far from the confident tone I remembered. "Serena, I think we need to talk." I could hear the desperation in his words, and for a split second, I wondered if I should feel something, anything, toward him. Maybe guilt or anger, or even relief. But the truth was, I didn't feel much at all. He was reaching out, not because he suddenly cared, but because he had no other choice. His empire, the one he had built with all the pride in the world, was crumbling under the weight of my decisions. I had done what he never thought I was capable of. I had taken control of my own destiny, and in doing so, I had undone everything he had worked for. I didn't want to talk to him. Not now. Not after everything he had done to me. I didn't owe him an explanation. I had already given up on his love, his approval, his respect. But something in me knew I couldn't just ignore him. Not entirely. So, I picked up the phone. "I don't know what you expect from me," I said, my voice steady, but quiet. The power in my words far heavier than I had ever realized. "I'm not your savior. I never was." The silence on the other end was deafening, and in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't just a daughter anymore. I wasn't looking for his approval or validation. I was the one in control now. I had won, not just the battle, but the war, and he had no power left to take that from me.